Great. Good evening and welcome to members.
Sorry, it's not
Right, let me rewind.
Get 250 quid for this, we send it to the right programme.
Thank you very much, Joy. So good evening and welcome to members, officers, the press and members of the public joining the Cabinet meeting this afternoon, and a special welcome to our young people from the borough who will be part of presenting a paper that we're going to be considering as Cabinet today. Just to advise, the meeting's also been live streamed on YouTube, so welcome to everyone that's watching via YouTube, and councillors unable to join the meeting in person are able to join remotely. However, they will not be able to present an item, move, second a motion or vote, and their attendance will not be officially recorded. With regards to meeting etiquette, please can I ask that you indicate that you wish to speak by raising your hand if you're in the chamber so I can see, or by using the hand symbol on the Zoom dashboard, which I'll have to turn around to see unless someone can indicate, or I may set up my computer in a short while. I'd also advise that anyone physically present is not required to wear a mask, as we've retained some elements of social distancing and have ventilation in place in this chamber. However, anyone can wear a face mask if they wish to do so. Anyone wearing a face mask should remove it when invited to speak and replace it speaking. As a reminder, can I please ask members and officers to introduce themselves when speaking? And because I didn't follow the missive, I'm Roxana Fiaz, Mayor of Newham, and I'd like to inform the meeting that we have some young people attending, as I mentioned previously, to present the Young People's Charter for one of the agenda items, and that's the Newham Children Young People's Plan 2022 to 27 and the Young People's Charter. So before we jump into the agenda items, I just wanted to advise Joy as clerk to the committee that I'm making some adjustments to the running order of the agenda, and I'm conscious that the young people need to leave here by 5:30. Is that right? Yep. Okay. 5:30. So the changes are going to be as follows. We're going to be taking agenda item 5 first, towards a Better Newham Q3 performance report. So that will now become agenda item 4. The current agenda item 4 will become agenda item 5. Then we will be doing agenda item 6 as is. Then we will be doing the agenda item 13 as agenda item 7. Then I'll be taking the agenda item 7 as agenda item 8. Then I'm going to be going into the agenda item leisure services transformation, procurement as agenda item 9. Then I will be going on to agenda item 10 as item 10. Then I will be going on to agenda item current 12 as agenda item 11. Then I will be going on to parking debt write-off as agenda item 12. And then I will be ending. I missed something?
You've missed agenda item 9, the appointment of supplier for materials.
Yeah, so that will now become agenda item 13. Yeah? Right, okay, so everyone clear? All right, brilliant. So can we just take apologies for absence? Are there any apologies for absence, Joy?
Yes, we received apologies for absence from Councillor Rahman.
Okay. And just to advise, we have cabinet members Charlie McLean and James Beckles, who are watching and participating in this cabinet meeting via Zoom, but as per my comments at the start of the meeting, they won't be able to participate in moving or amending or voting, and they will be recorded as not being present, but they are here. Any other apologies, colleagues? No? Right, can I just draw your attention to declarations of interest on pages 9 to 10? And that's in accordance with the Members' Code of Conduct. And can anyone that's a cabinet member in the chamber advise if there are any matters of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests being discussed this evening that they have an interest in? Anyone? Oh, right, and then going to agenda item 3, appointments to outside bodies. There will be no appointments I'll be announcing to outside bodies this evening or at this cabinet meeting. So colleagues, we're going to jump on to the first substantive agenda item, which is towards a better known Q3 performance report. And I'll be introducing this as a portfolio lead for this paper, and just really wanted to highlight this is the third quarterly report for the fiscal year 2021-2022 in relation to the delivery of our Towards a Better Newham recovery strategy and subsequent action plan. The strategy itself was adopted by Cabinet in November 2020. As you're all aware, this is in essence our mission and sets out a whole number of missions as we come out of COVID-19 as part of our intention and purpose of ensuring that the impact of COVID-19, both in health and economic terms, we navigate that through deftly and powerfully in order to achieve a whole series of important outcomes for all of our residents, from the pillar 1 relating to the health, well-being and happiness of our people, through to pillar 2, ensuring that every single young person from the age of 24 years old and under is supported through their economic journeys, and no doubt we'll hear from some young people shortly when we come to the next agenda item, through to greening of the borough and a whole raft of transformational measures and policies and strategies that we're pursuing as part of our recovery plan, all very much linked into the pan-London ambition around the recovery missions for the capital. So I just really wanted to draw some key top lines. 95% of actions that are reflected in our outcomes-based performance framework for this council are on track or have been completed, and there is very much a demonstration of a positive journey and trajectory that we have embarked on as an administration through all the changes that we have been making, only in response to the pandemic, but so since May 2018. Despite the significant challenges, we remain on track to deliver all the things that we aspire and are ambitious for regards to our resident population. And I commend this report to Cabinet. Before I do open up to any questions, I'll invite either Jessica Crowe or James Partis, who's done a huge amount of work in his role as the Director of Change and Insight, to bring the organisation unified together in being clear around their requirements that we've placed on them as administration. Either of you two want to say anything?
I don't think we need to add anything to that introduction.
All right, thank you very much. And can I just formally, for record, note my thanks and appreciation to both Jessica and James for their sterling work alongside the wider team in pulling this together. Thank you very much. Are there any questions, colleagues? No, right, okay. Everyone's clearly bamboozled. They're actually really thinking, oh my God, we've got so much work. Because she pushes us hard. Right, okay, so I'm going to draw everyone's attention to the recommendations as set out on big page number, and I'm just trying to find it. A moment. 25 to 90. So if you just get to big page number 28, agenda pack, so you'll note the recommendations. For the reasons set out in the report and its appendices, Cabinet is recommended to note and consider the progress as at Q3 2021-22 in the delivery of the Towards a Better Newham strategy and the corporate delivery plan as set out in section 5, 2.1.2. Note the Q3 report on the corporate as set out in appendix 1 and 2.1.3. Agree the requested changes to the corporate delivery plan as set out in appendix 2. Are we agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We're now going to move into new agenda item 5, Newham Children and Young People's Plan 2022 to 2027 and Young People's Charter pages 11 to 24. I'm going to invite Councillor Sarah Ruiz and Councillor Carleen Lee Parkway, albeit I appreciate you have delegated some of that time to our young people here. And if you could, when you are speaking, if you could kindly let us know what your names are. Okay, so how do you want to play this, you two?
Starting off. Good evening, everyone. Councillor Sarah Ruiz, Cabinet Lead for Children, Social Care and Education. As lead members, we welcome our young people here today who will present the Young People's Charter to us. We have Nazmia, Ramsey, Marwa and Daniel. So welcome and thank you very much for joining us here to present the Charter. The Children and Young People's Plan is a partnership plan and it's important because it provides the strategic direction for the delivery of services council and our partners for children, young people and families in Newham. It sets out our ambition for Newham to be the best place to grow up, where all can play and be happy, healthy, safe, thrive and are able to reach their full potential. The Young People's Charter has been critical in the development of the plan. It has informed the strategic priorities and at its heart is about listening to our young people, working to create a more child and young person focused borough where we co-design, listen to, consult and act on what young people are telling us is important to them. As reflected in the cover report, we know that we face current and future financial challenges which may involve hard choices to be made. We are realistic about the financial constraints councils face and are likely to continue to face. This should, however, not affect our determination to make Newham the best place to grow up and to make the right choices for our children and young people. Pass over to Carleen now.
Thank you, Councillor Ruiz. The Newham Council is committed to ensuring that every child and young person is happy, healthy, safe and able to thrive. The Young People's Charter was a document co-created with young people, outlining at a set of principles that frame the way young people are supported in Newham. The Young People's Charter was first discussed at Newham's Next Gen meeting back in September 2021 and then in November 2021. The co-creation process of the Charter began. The form, parents and contents of all aspects of the Charter has been defined by our young people across Newham. The Charter is something that everyone throughout Newham who has a role in or can influence a young person's lives can sign up and agree to. As an example, the Newham Curriculum for All, a subgroup of Newham head teachers, has agreed to the principles of the Charter and will use them to create a set of curriculum guiding principles that any school, setting or college can use as a guide when designing their own curriculums. As Councillor Ruiz has suggested, the principles in the Young People's Charter are helping shape the forthcoming Children and Young People's Plan. and demonstrates the Council's and Newham's commitment to be an ambitious and supporting our young people. In Newham, children and young people are 30% of our population and 100% of our future. Through this charter, the voices of young people are being heard and their priorities and rights amplified. I would like to now invite our young people to present the charter. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Noel. Thank you for inviting us here today to present the Youth Charter. We are the young people who started this charter. I'd like you to introduce you to my peers.
I'm Ben. Nice to meet you.
Good afternoon, my name is Nazmia.
I'm Nancy. Nice to meet you.
First of all, we would like to talk you through the process.
Throughout this process, we discussed many important values. We looked at our own core values that we want in this community. We tried to think about the safety and happiness of everyone in the borough.
We looked at other examples of charters and manifestos to see how we could improve ours and make the best version. It wasn't just random. We took time and perseverance to make these values.
We got great feedback through this survey. Just gave us a lot of information about how you can improve. Most of it we can improve, for example, championship.
Some of the feedback we received from adults were not as easy as the time on Shutterstock, finding pictures that we can use for the charter.
This is how we think the Youth Charter benefits young people.
This charter was made by young people and it lets everyone know what we can expect from the adults and the community.
To make change through young people in the borough, not to leave to adults.
Trying something clear that highlights what young people want in the borough.
Agreeing that changes are being made and that these changes are visible.
It will make young people feel good because they will see their voices are being heard and that this has an influence in the change that happens in the world. All the 11 principles are important to young people, but with each principle that we personally hold in our hearts.
There's a lot of things that need to be heard and change along the lines of the young people's expectations.
I principle is quality, as there's no point in this change if there was no quality. Rajan, who could unfortunately not be with us today's quality was independence. And he said for himself it is important as he always wanted to travel, and if everyone in the community signed up for the charter, it would make it more possible.
My main principle was health, not just physical health, but your mental health and your well-being. This, that you can speak to someone if you're suffering.
The quality I chose was community. I think community is really important because everyone sees their role in the community. If we all advocate for change and if we all respect everyone else, then we can all help each other out and make change.
You must be thinking, what are the next steps?
If this gets approved, then we can distribute it out to people of Newham. This can be done through assemblies in schools, through putting it in letterboxes, even sending out digital copies through email.
It should be advertised and make sure that everyone's fully aware of what it means.
We can find out from people in the most effective way is for us to communicate this so that it's economically accessible and environmentally.
We need to work out the best way to make sure that people are signing up to it. Today, we are presenting it to you to cabinet to be signed up.
Thank you for your time and thank you for listening. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much, the four of you. It's really, really inspiring, particularly no doubt for us women here as we mark today as International Women's Day, and our future give us a huge amount of comfort. So thank you very much for all of your hard work, your input into this very vital and necessary and important process. So colleagues, we are opening up to questions. Can I invite questions from members of Cabinet? I've seen Terry, then I'll come to Anne and then Zulfikar.
First of all, can I welcome you to the chamber and well done for speaking so well. My name's Terry Paul. I'm the Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Services. Two-part question. What could I do in my role? I do the finance bit, right? How can I make sure that we actually... Also, I note in the report, it says it's going to be updated annually by the wellbeing boards, but I suspect as young people, you don't go to wellbeing boards a lot. So how would you want to be updated? How do we update the rest of the young people on each journey over the next 5 years?
Well, for finances, I think it'd be really important to finance projects that will help young people in the community. And as for keeping people accountable and making sure that everything's being updated, it would be useful to maybe have an online, like the session to be recorded so we can watch it, or maybe have a website where it's regularly updated.
Okay, thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you. I'm Anne Easter. I'm one of the councillors for Canning Town North. Perhaps one of you lives that way. Yeah. And I particularly am involved with interfaith stuff. And so it's particularly good to welcome you today. But do bear in mind, some of us are about 103 and can't hear very well. So keep your voices up, won't you? Because this is important. I really enjoyed reading and hearing about the work that you've done. And I wondered for each of you, and I know we haven't got a lot of time, so for each of you briefly, what did you like best about working on the Charter?
What I liked about the Charter personally is that we all encouraged what our value personally means to us and how it would help to the wider community. And everyone's principles heard, and we all had different principles, so it would make a whole charter.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. How about you?
I really enjoyed inclusiveness because we weren't only thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about everyone else in our community and how it is.
That's great.
I agree. I enjoyed listening to other people's opinions and their own ideas about what could be on the Charter. I also think that it strengthened our bonds together and built a better relationship.
Can I just ask you a supplementary on that one? Was there any opinions that surprised you?
I can think of no.
Oh, okay. That's good. How about you?
For me, I enjoy seeing, getting an insight on how the council runs. So seeing exactly what they do behind the scenes, because honestly, a lot of you guys do that we don't get to see or doesn't necessarily get touched on. So it's nice to see what happens in the council and just to get an overview of what the young people want and what changes they would like to see.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Zulfikar.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Zulfikar Ali. I'm Cabinet Lead for Health and Adult Social Care, and I'm also Councillor from Plaistow North. So really great to hear you all, and I really admire the work you've done along with my colleagues here. We want Newham to be the best place for everyone, but more particularly for our young people. You are our future assets, and our aspiration. So what do you think from your perspective we can do to focus our mind to make you successful in the years ahead?
Ooh.
Yeah, what can we do for you so that you are getting inspired, getting your, fulfilling your ambitions, whatever you want to do in life? What can we do to support you?
Ask the tricky question.
I hope it's simple.
Ramsey's.
For me, I feel like it's just making sure that there's a service in place that is easily accessible to everyone, and that it's sort of not accurate, but it's covered, everyone gets the same services at the same sort of quality. I feel like a lot of young people may not experience the service that they should, and that's kind of a letdown in their progression and independence for later on in life.
Thank you. I think you want to come back, don't you?
I think that everyone should say that, not make false promises. Say if they're going to do something to do it, and not just leave something lurking around. So
Good. Yeah.
Great. I mean, I have responsibility for health and social.
Don't lurk around.
So what can I do to make you more physically active and be more healthier in my area? Any ideas I can pinch from you?
we could incorporate some lessons in school. In school we have PSHE. It's mostly about mental health, physical health. But if we can incorporate as a borough, the Charter and physical health and the importance of life in general into that lesson, so it would be very helpful.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you very much. Great inspiration.
Okay. Are there any more questions?
You touched on it, Jane Nothouse, councillor for Gloucester. You touched on this a little bit, but I wonder if you could have got any views about how the council itself can raise awareness and encourage adoption of this charter. We can do. Yeah.
Sending this charter to businesses would be a good start, and making sure that businesses and other institutions within UM are following and they understand what they can do to help, from simply just talking to young people to even having a whole people and having that involve young people in the process and help them make change in the community. All these things are really important and they can all help out. And even having this opportunity here is already creating change because it allows us to make a difference in the community.
Policy that runs through everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Any other thoughts?
We could create workshops and put around signs or lampposts saying to follow the charter, because these 11 principles, they're not just principles for Newham, they're principles for London and England, basically the world. So if we could put it like distribute out to everyone, it would be really good.
Now that's a vision.
Are you all ready to do the world?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so that's the United Nations, everyone.
There you are, right.
That's next week.
Yeah, next week. I'm not that hard a taskmaster, actually. They're kind of.
No, it could be this week then.
Any other questions? James?
Hi, I'm James Usser. I'm the Cabinet Member for the Environment and Highways. I'm also councillor in Beckton. So nice
And the governor at that school?
I was going to say, and the governor at your school too. So, if you see me in the if you see me in the corridor, do not do whatever they're telling you should do. So, but it's always really nice because it's always to see people from your own school. So, but one of your things on your charter is about the environment, which obviously my day job and I know going around schools around the borough is always something that younger people and people at school are always really interested in. It's something we want to do more on in terms of engaging with the community and engaging with schools. And I just wondered if you've got any kind of thoughts on how that fits in, because clearly there's a lot of conversation going on about climate change in the future, and it's your generation that if we don't sort it out are going to be picking out the pieces. And just wonder if we can do, is there more we could do within schools? Is there more that you'd like to see us doing, or how we could work with you?
I think there should be more workshops on the importance of taking care of the environment, because whenever I walk home, there's a specific area that's always covered in litter, and it's really loud about, and it's really disheartening. So maybe a workshop to remind people that it's not okay to litter. It's important to take care of your environment and the place that you're living in, because we're not going to have another planet. This is our home.
Do you have the Love Newham app on your phone? Oh, so you can report that litter, and one of our very speedy team would be there, not in an instant, but it would be dealt with. So maybe Tim can show you the app, because it actually does work. So,
any other questions from members of the Cabinet or wider executive? I've also noted Tim. Tim, do you want to say anything? And Geetha?
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's been covered pretty well by councillors and young people. Just to say perhaps a little bit more on the Children and Young People's Plan. The aim is that it's a partnership plan. So following approval from Cabinet, the aim is to do some further consultation with our partners, and then to bring that final draft to the Health and Wellbeing Board for sign-off before it returns to Council for approval. So just thought that context might be helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, I think, we're really proud of what you've done and achieved with this charter. And I think, what's really important about this is the action that sits behind it. And as Tim has just said, the actions, the measures, how are we going to demonstrate to you that we are doing the things that you would like us to do is the next part that will come to sign off. But yeah, really grateful. Thank you very much for all the work you've done on this. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And can I ask, before we conclude this agenda item, is there anything the four of you would like to asked either myself as the mayor or members of cabinet based on what you've heard and our responses and our questions to you? No? All right, fine. Once again, thank you very much for all of your hard work and input into this. Colleen and Sarah, I've got one question for clarification. Just in terms of the consultation process that will commence once, and all being well this evening, we approve. I noted Tim saying that there will be an ongoing period of consultation with partners. Is there more engagement with young people that will be undertaken as part of finessing this document and the corresponding outcomes framework?
I think so. Tim and Geetha are nodding, so I'm assuming that there is.
Tim?
Yeah, no, I know, Chair, that there's already been quite wide consultation with young people. Geetha, I don't know if you've got anything to add in terms of further consultation that's in the plan.
Sure, thank you. So yes, there will be consultation on the detailed action plan and the outcomes framework, so the measures, and that will be done with obviously our young people here, but it will also be done through Next Gen Newham, which is a wider forum where young people are obviously consulting and talking to us about change. So yes, that's in the programme, and it will all come together with a signed off document of a partnership and young people's consultation on the wider action.
And I appreciate it will go back to the Next Gen forum, but could we also citizen assemblies and the wider youth empowerment cohort of young people as well?
Yes, they are part of Next Gen Newham, and yes, we'll definitely do that now. Thank you.
All right, brilliant. Okay, so colleagues, I'm going to just draw your attention to the recommendations as set out in the report. So Cabinet is asked to note Cabinet's commitment to the contents of the summary plan as set out in Appendix 1 and agree that this should progress to wider consultation with partners and agreement at a future meeting of full council and Newham's Health and Wellbeing Board. And note the context. Sorry, I just want to clarify, why does it not come back to constitutionally or legal perspective? Why doesn't it not come back to?
And if you want it to, but constitutionally it does need to go to full council.
Right, okay. I think just given how important this is and as a symbol of the executive's commitment to young people, I think it ought to come here as well as to full council. So if we can just ensure a couple of amendments to that recommendation as follows. So where you've got wider consultation with partners and agreement at a future meeting, could you rephrase that or amend that to read to wider consultation with partners and young people alongside agreement meeting of Cabinet and full council, as well as Newham's Health and Wellbeing Board? Get that, Joy? Thank you. Recommendation B, 2B, note the contents and make a commitment that the council will commit to and promote the principles of the Young People's Charter as set out in Appendix 2. Recommendation C, agree to delegate to the Corporate Director, Brighter Futures and Corporate Director, Children and Young People Services in consultation with the Cabinet members for Brighter Futures and Education and Children's Social Care to make final changes to Appendix 1 following consultation with partners and young people, just insert and young people prior to agreement at a future meeting of the Cabinet and Council alongside Newham's Health and Wellbeing Board. Note that the development of a full children and young people's plan, including an action plan, will be progressed in consultation with partners and be subject to agreement by Cabinet and full council alongside Newham's Health and Wellbeing Board. Agree that the plan covers a 5-year period and is to be subject to an annual review update to be considered by partners. I'm so sorry, because every time I read partners, I don't read children. So where there's partners and children, Agree that the plan covers a 5-year period and is to be subject to an annual review update to be considered by partners and young people through NUM's partnership boards, Next Generation and Youth Empowerment Network. Is that right?
They're
the same.
They're very good. There's Next Gender, and then there's a whole range of participation, sort of routes for participation in different settings.
Right, so there's two arenas that sit within a wider context of youth participation. Right, I'm so sorry, colleagues. E, agree that the plan covers a 5-year period and is to be subject to an annual review update to be considered by partners through NUM's partnership boards and young people, partnership boards and health and wellbeing board alongside young people through the Next Generation and youth assemblies, forums, and the wider participation arena of youth empowerment services. Yes.
Bit of a mouthful.
Did you get that, Joy?
Yes, she did get it.
Oh, right, okay, I didn't hear.
She was too busy writing it down.
Okay. Right, do we agree, members of Cabinet that are here?
Agreed.
Okay, well done, agreed as well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Minutes over.
I'm so sorry to have kept you behind. I hope you get home safely. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues. So, colleagues, we're now going to be moving on to agenda item 6, new item 6, that is, and this is the new homes. Sorry, it's the existing agenda item 6, new homes for new programme 2021-22 contract awards. And this is post-December 2021 cabinet approval. So colleagues, please note that there are some exempt pages to this cabinet item. So if any member wishes to discuss anything contained in the appendix at this point, the press and public will need to be excluded from the room and streaming on YouTube will be suspended. So if you could kindly bear that in mind when you're asking your questions. So back in December 2021, a cabinet approved contract values for 8 contracts across the Affordable Homes for Newham programme. As you all know, this is a programme through which we are driving forward and progressing with our manifesto pledge of 1,000 homes at social rent levels. Now, following the tender process, 3 of these contracts are being awarded under key decisions as delegated by Cabinet. The 5 schemes set out in the paper before you seeks an updated approval from Cabinet to enable the council to meet the GLA deadline for claiming grant for this financial year. So it's a really important paper. It will enable the significant amounts that we were awarded by the Mayor of London under the auspices of the Affordable Homes for London programme. And as you'll all recall, way back in 2019, we were delighted to be able to announce we got the largest allocation in London at that point under that programme. So 2 of the contracts are at higher values than previously approved, but all other contracts are lower. In total, the contract values will be circa £10 million lower than Cabinet approved in December last year across all sites. 1 contract is presented again for approval as it is more efficient in terms of time than taking it through the officer key decision process and will enable us to meet the GLA expectations sooner. The final 2 contracts are for in principle improvement and to delegate to officers to accept the final tender price as they are currently working through some provisional sums set out within the submitted tenders. In addition, the paper seeks approval to procure a works contract to refurbish our Aragon Road property to facilitate the relocation of a boxing club from one of our development sites. Full consultation of this paper has taken place with both myself as the portfolio lead for housing delivery, Councillor Shabbar Mohammed, the Cabinet Member for Housing Services, and also Councillor Terry Paul as the Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources. And it's part of a enhanced governance piece that we've put in place, whereby across the entire affordable homes scheme, we meet monthly to track progress and address any issues. So at this juncture, I will invite either Chris Holland, the Principal Officer Lead for the programme Inside, and Dave Hughes, who's the Corporate Director. Over to the both of you. Who wants to start first?
Thank you, Mayor. It's Dave Hughes, Corporate Director for Inclusive Economy and Housing. You covered the recommendations. This is a great achievement to actually get these sites actually in and back for tender. All sites bar one have now got planning permission, and we're very hopeful we're going to get consent for that final site this month. So basically, if the council can approve, Cabinet can approve these schemes, we'll be able to draw down our grants that's outstanding from the GLA, which, as you say, was the highest award in London, and also meet the corporate priority of delivering at least 1,000 homes, genuinely affordable homes. I don't know if Chris wants to add any more detail.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Chris Holland, Head of Delivery. Not really want to add more detail. This really just to say that this is our dynamic response to the way the market is at the moment. The construction market is very volatile. I brought paper back to yourselves in December, and this is really just our response to make sure that we can hit the market head on and deliver the much needed homes in you. I'm happy to answer any questions on the paper any member of Cabinet has. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris and Dave. So I'm going to be opening up to questions. Councillor Terry Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. Just an observation, really. Well done to Chris, but also particularly pleased, but I can never say it. Burgoyne site in East Ham is only going to be, transformed, which has been it's been an empty site as long as I've been a lad, a long time. So, and I think that's welcome, especially for residents in East Ham.
Yeah,
it's quite good. So, the whole thing is good to see us moving along and spending that grant, but particularly on that Burgoyne thing, because it's sort of a high-profile building, and it's been there so long, it's become part of people accept it being a derelict site. I think it's well done on that site as well. So well done. Good.
Brilliant. Thank you. I think just on that broader point, I think a testament to the diligence and the passion of the wider team that are driving forward the Affordable Homes for Newham programme, to be very exacting across all those sites that have just been languishing across our borough, creating eyesores in our neighbourhoods, and not at all a demonstration of the ambition that we as a people's powered council should be manifesting, every day, every week and every month. So a real point of comment, and I think a reflection of the drive and determination that the wider officer team that are part of the 1,000 Homes programme have committed themselves to. So really well done. Councillor Shabbar Mohammed.
Yeah, I just want to really thank Chris and his team for all the hard work they've been doing, and me and the Mayor have gone around the borough, and I think the main message is we are building, and we're building for our residents, and we can clearly see the difference it's making to residents that have been waiting years on the waiting list, and they finally move into council properties, and the difference it makes in their lives, how it transforms their lives, and actually, puts smiles on mine and the Mayor's faces when we see these residents and how much a council home and a social rent can make a difference to people.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Okay, fine. I'm going to move over to the recommendations. Big page number 189. So for the reasons set out in the report and its appendices, Cabinet is recommended to agree 2.1.1, approve the direction of travel for the emerging master plan as set out in Key Stage 3 report, Appendix 1, and 2.1.2, a revised master planning and delivery strategy for strategic sites. Sorry, I've got the wrong one. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've got ahead of myself. I've got my next agenda item. 1 second. Which page?
Page 93.
Page 93. Apologies, everyone. Right, big page number 93, you can see the recommendations from 2.1 all the way through to 2.2 and everything in between. Do we agree? Right, okay, let's move on. Right, so the next agenda item was designated item 13, but I'm moving it to agenda item 7. This is the revised master plan strategy for strategic site 28 at Custom House, including early delivery of William Patton Gardens and 20 to 22 Freemasons Road. So I'm going to start first because I'm going to be introducing this report and then I'll open it over to Councillor Shabban Mohammed. I remember vividly being in a chamber way back in 2017 when I was a councillor, and at that time was councillor in Custom House. And in the preceding 3 years, I had been involved in really important conversations with our local residents in that part of the borough, who had been organising and working towards a alternative regeneration scheme that really placed the needs and aspirations of its residents from Custom House at the heart of the Custom House regeneration plans. And in a similar vein to what was said in the previous paper, Custom House, as we all know, with many parts of south of the borough, have for too long been neglected and not been reimagined in a way that is alert and responsive to what residents need. There had been the grand scheme around Canning Town, a huge amount of concern about what had happened at Canning Town and residents not wanting that to be replicated in Custom House. And working alongside the People's Empowerment Alliance for Custom House during that period, they were sitting in the public gallery, everyone with wetted breath about, what was going to be the cabinet at that time's determination. And it had taken some 2 years of pretty bullish conversation, discussion, debate, campaigning on behalf of our residents to get Custom House regeneration rebooted and restarted in a way that would instill confidence in the community. We stepped in 2018 and we had an opportunity to ensure that the principles of co-production, co-design, people at the heart were very much anchored in the council's new approach to Custom House subsequently. And this is the reason why we're addressing this revised master plan strategy for this part of Custom House, because through a very deliberative process to ensure what we inherited with regards to the council's intentions before 2018 actually met our standards as this administration. And I'm really pleased to say, despite the challenges, and there have been many, despite the needing to get to a place with our residents where they were willing to suspend their disbelief and begin to trust us in this collaboration, we have achieved something really significant in this paper. You will note that this paper specifically sets out the revised master plan strategy for a particular site at Custom House, including the early delivery of William Patton Gardens and 20 to 22 Freemasons. So this is a scheme that will clearly demonstrate to our residents living in Custom House that we are serious, we're intentional, we're ambitious, and we are going to be accelerating work in an area of the borough which for too long has been waiting. The two schemes will provide 98 new genuinely affordable homes at social rent levels and help address the climate emergency and fuel poverty through our commitment to the Passive House Principles of Design as part of our Climate Emergency Action Plan. And we're also going to be, through these schemes, accelerating housing provision in Custom House. So I really do commend this report. I'm going to pass over to Councillor Shaban for any other words before I open up to questions.
Thank you, Chair. And I think, the word co-production means co-production. I think, when we came in 2018, we're serious about working with those residents because as a resident of Cantown North, I think and as a councillor there, I think the main feedback that we always got from residents that they were shortchanged during that regeneration process, and what was promised was never delivered. And I think it's really good that we're delivering this. And again, we're getting residents involved. I'm really, really proud that we are driving housing and people at the heart of everything we're doing. Again, 98 homes, much needed homes. It's going to really make a big difference to all our residents, and I'm very, very proud of all the work that we're doing in housing and chat about it more. So thank you, Chair.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Dave, is there anything you'd like to add?
Just briefly, Mayor, just to echo the fact that the co-production has meant that we've been through a number of iterations on the master plan with the local community, and I'm pleased to say I do think now we're working very efficiently with the local community in coming up with options and ideas. And this report, although technical, it breaks certain sites up, is actually going forward with the blessing of the steering group that we work with. So as following on Carpenter's estate, where we had to have the ballot, we can actually commence with some of these blocks with full community endorsement. That's still to say that we will be looking at a ballot as a future point for Custom House for the remainder of the state, but these sites can go forward now, as I say, with the steering group and with the co-production support of the community. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Any questions, Sarah?
Not a question, Chair. I've chaired the resident steering group, or the Custom House Regen steering group since its inception. I was trying to think, but I think it was probably January 2019. So it has been a very bumpy road. More bumps than I would really want to have had. But I do think that we have now reached a stage where we all understand what co-production means. So co-production is something that not everybody, we don't all sing from the same book. It's not necessarily about everybody making all the decisions. It's about working together. But this will, you have no idea just how long we have waited for these two sites to come on stream. And, this will be a sign of really good faith, because over these 4 years, it's been a case of trying to keep the show on the road because nobody ever believed that we would do it. And so these two sites are immense and will form part of the wider Custom House Regen. But they are two significant sites, and we have a steering group tomorrow night. So I will be able to report to them that this is going through. Not that they would ever have doubted me in that space, but it is immense. And I thank you for the work, because not only have we had a bumpy ride on the steering group, we haven't had a consistency of staff either. And I think that we have now got a really good team that are really focused. And I think, this just shows that, because Actually, this has taken quite a long time to get to this point, but we've got a very good team now, committed, really understand the process. So I am absolutely delighted. And once the hoardings go up, that would be absolutely amazing.
And the hoardings will go up because they're really, really awesome.
I'm sure they are. I can't wait to see them, Chair.
Great. Colleen.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome this report tonight. I guess the only thing I wanted to ask, and I guess my question to you, Dave, and you've heard me ask this question in different places at different times. So listening to what your opening remarks, you spoke about that consultation piece with the residents. And I just want to understand young people's voices in that consultation piece, because as we heard earlier on, our young people are our future. And actually, how is it that we've galvanised their voices? And if we haven't, how is it we're going to galvanise their voices in regards to making what it is that we build child-friendly as possible?
I can answer part of that because young people have been part of the steering group, not directly, but actually we have people on the steering group who meet with young people, not just at the Shipman, but also with schools in the area. They've just recently, they've had a shutter design project. So it's not easy to engage with young people on things that actually, probably that it's not relevant to them, but actually going forward, they are becoming more and more involved. And with the hub open, they're forever, they may think they're just coming in because they want to nab a cup of coffee or something, but actually they are becoming more involved. And I think we've got two public events, isn't it, next week, Dave, and the week after? Community events, and certainly young people have been involved in that as well.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. Excellent question. And yes, we've obviously had the challenges of the pandemic, which has been difficult for consultation with all our residents. But as Councillor Rowe says, full commitment to working with youth. In fact, today I was on another estate regen call where we were not only exploring how youth get involved with talking about design and the consultation of the actual details, but actually then talking to youth about how potentially they could pursue careers in architecture and planning and other design services. So actually talking to them about career opportunities in regeneration, as well as actually talking about the details of the schemes.
And just to elaborate, it's not just talking. So we got an update on how a cohort of 10 young people from the Carpenters Estate, since a programme commencing last August, have actually gone through a really immersive programme since then and have actually produced, as part of an outcome, a designed product of seating, and the Carpenters team are going to be working with the council's Highways and Environments team to determine where this seating, really beautiful, interesting, 21st century, futuristic,
£1 billion gone,
can be placed. And it was just really heartening to see we're not just talking about careers, we're actually bringing them in and giving them the exposure and the experience. And the thing that we ended up discussing is how we can include that as part of a pathway into sustainable career opportunities and, in essence, work. So lots that we're going to be doing across all of our regeneration schemes. So is that satisfactory? Thank you. Right. I can't see anyone else. Nope. We will go to the recommendations. Cabinet is recommended to approve the direction of travel for the emerging master plan set out in Key Stage 3 report in Appendix 1, and a revised master plan and delivery, a revised master plan, planning and delivery strategy for strategic site 28, including the submission of separate detailed planning applications for 20 to 22 Freemasons Road and William Patton Gardens, which we've designated the kick-start sites to kick-start and re-accelerate. Do we all agree? All right, great, thank you very much. Now moving on to, we're going to be jumping to the new agenda item 8, which is Change and Insight Service Senior Management Review. Now, I'm going to be passing over to Councillor Terry Paul.
Thank you, Chair. This post was created as a fixed term post, but obviously to help us with the transformation of the council. It says three main thrusts of that work: sparks and the business systems strand. Obviously, we need to continue the transformation of the council and have some more projects we need to do. And this is asking Cabinet's position to turn that post into a permanent post to enable that transformation to and also drive change in growth. My director to answer any of the hard, tricky questions couldn't possibly answer. Pop out.
So, I mean, all I'd add is just, you know, I think this, as you saw, the actually some of the fruits of the work that's been carried out since this post was created, and the new directorate and team was set up in your earlier report this evening, the Towards Better New Performance report. So, just creating all of that infrastructure that's able to track what the council is seeking to deliver in terms of your objectives, and to have the capacity and capability to deliver all of the changes to do that is all of the things that this role has been able to create in place. And I think, as Councillor Paul says, there are new challenges always emerging. So there's I think we've determined that there is an ongoing need for this kind of strategic transformation. So that's why I'm asking you to make the post into a permanent one, to enable that to continue.
Thank you very much. If I may also add, the ongoing evolution of any organisation is well understood. And in the context of Newham, just given the ambitious agenda that we've been driving since 2018, you know us, we don't stop. And we've got the Future Newham programme that we've got to marshal and take forward, and that's all part of a very early conversation we had at Cabinet way back in 2000 and tail end of 2018 it would have been, when we or it would have been early 2019 when we acknowledged and recognised that as part of future-proofing our council and our authority to make it agile and fit for purpose for the 21st century, we needed to starship enterprise into the 21st century, and we made an investment in that, and that allowed us to prepare, well, it allowed us to actually navigate COVID-19 when everyone had to switch over to online or working from home online. And I think in a similar vein, the permanency of this post ensures that we're hardwiring that change and transformation appetite that we have in a way that's not disruptive, but it's a reflection of our ongoing and constant demand for improvement after improvement after improvement, but not just for improvement's sake, to ensure that every single penny and every single pound that we spend on behalf of our residents is spent in exemplary public service and profoundly important outcomes for them. So I similarly commend this report. Are there any questions? Sarah?
I'd like to preface what I'm going to say with, I don't have any issues about this department or the present incumbent, on the basis that I think that he has been a really key addition to staff and to the organisation, and not just one part of the organisation, but across the organisation. But I'd still, and I think I raised it before, I still don't want this to be a precedent because this post was advertised as a fixed term post. And I'm sure that if it had been advertised as a permanent post, the post holder would still possibly have got the job. But I would like an assurance that this is not setting a precedent, because advertising a fixed term is very different from advertising a permanent post.
I think on that point, and I appreciate that they're not named on the report, but in light of your as head of paid service, did you want to respond to that, Althea?
Yeah, I can do. So thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Ruiz. I know we've had this conversation and I absolutely agree with the comments that you've made and agree to some degree with the comments that you've made. So I think that, yes, it wouldn't be a precedent. We've heard the reasons why this has emerged in this way and why it's developed in this way, but it's not a path we would want to take routinely, and we would want to, it's what we anticipate of duration to need to be, and where something is going to be a permanent role, we would advertise it as such from the outset. So thank you for those comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, okay, so I can't see any more hands up. I'm going to suggest that we go straight to the recommendations on big page number, someone?
103.
103, thank you. So, for the reasons set out in the report, Cabinet is recommended to approve the creation of a permanent director post within the People Policy and Performance Directorate, namely Director of Change and Insight. Note the progress in delivering a different approach to change and project management originally mandated by the Cabinet report in April 2018, making new and work better for everyone, and further developed and strengthened since the fixed term director role has been filled. Do we all agree?
Agree.
Now we are going to be moving on to agenda item 9. I'm going to be inviting Councillor Zulfikar Ali to talk about the leisure services transformation, and it's a neat segue from the previous paper around change and insight, because this has been very much informed by our insight around the health needs of our borough and what that requires of the organisation. And it again is reflective of our appetite as administration for change, not just for its own sake, but change for the benefits of our people. So over to you, Zulfikar.
Thank you, Chair. And as you rightly said, improvements to health, well-being and physical activity are amongst our key priorities of this administration. And co-production seems to be quite rightly the theme this evening, and continuing with that theme, I can assure you that this service that we are now transforming is being redesigned along with the residents that we are here to serve. And their input is going to be fundamental in order to make sure that the services that we deliver in future are fit for purpose to meet not only our current needs, but foreseeable future needs as well. And of course, by putting people at the heart of everything we do. As such, services with an active NUM have been subject of a fundamental review, as the current active NUM contract is due to expire on 31st of December 2022. And you will recall, Chair, that the Cabinet agreed back in October 2021 to insource some elements of current active NUM contract, and these included volunteering service, allotments, and parks booking service. I'm pleased to say that arrangements are going well to ensure that these services are fully returned from 1st of April this year, and that these operate in a way that meet our aspirations. As part of the early decision, this report updates the Cabinet on the proposal for the rest of the active NUM services as part of the transformation process that we instigated last year. Officers have undertaken extensive market engagement as well as residents' consultation to ensure we plan to achieve the best outcome for our residents. Our aim is to deliver our aspiration, as you said, Chair, get the best for our residents, deliver efficiencies and value for money for the next contract. We want our future support and physical activities to have a direct impact, as you said earlier, Chair, in our health and well-being strategies, our 50 steps, and address the inequalities which have adversely affected our residents, particularly during the COVID pandemic. I'm pleased to say, Chair, that our vision, our aspiration, our ambition, and wants of our residents will play, as I said earlier, a pivotal role in the proposed procurement process. We also want to ensure that our future partner shares our ambitions and our commitments and is committed in this regard, is experienced and is capable of delivering future services. Finally, Chair, I would like to thank our officers for my service area and indeed all other areas across the council for their hard work and due diligence in bringing forward the proposals this evening. And I will ask the Cabinet to approve the recommendations. I will now invite Colin Ansell, Corporate Director, and Jason, Director of Public Health, or Carly, if they wish to add anything further. Colin?
Thank you very much, Councillor Rowley, and good evening, everyone. Colin Ansell, Corporate Director for Adults and Health. Nothing really more for me to add. I think, as you've already said, Councillor Rowley, this is a carry-on from the report we brought in October, whereby we made some decisions at that point, and this is now the pre-procurement that we'll be going out for. We'll be doing this process over the summer, and we'll be bringing this back to Cabinet for final decision once we've completed that work. But you're right, everything else I think you've already covered. Jason, is there anything you want to add?
Ali, anything?
Yeah. Anyone? Right, I have got James Asser and then Sarah Ruiz.
Yeah, I just wanted to come in on, obviously some of this now touches on my service area, and just to reassure everyone as part of our approach of making the council work in one whole way, that the environment team have been working closely with the officers on the screen about this, and obviously some of this is coming in and it fits quite nicely with the work we've done in terms of bringing our parks and green spaces service back in-house and the transformation that's done to make sure that works in a way. So I think benefits to park users in terms of having the booking service linked in with the green spaces work. The allotments too, we know there's huge demand for allotments and a degree of dissatisfaction about the waiting times. So there'll be a load of work to do on that, but I think having that in with the green spaces team makes a lot of sense as well. They already have to do some of the work. There's crossover, having it in one place will make it a better and more efficient service, and there'll be work to be done. So I think that in turn will make it easier for the health and leisure team in terms of being able to focus on the work they're doing, but obviously we'll continue to work across the two departments to make sure that that runs and transforms smoothly.
Okay, Sarah.
I think most importantly, certainly for me, is the fact that we will now have leisure services that are fit for all people. So most of you will know that actually if you have a disability, most of our leisure centres, they may well be physically accessible, but actually what happens when you get in there is not necessarily fit for purpose. So I really welcome this. Certainly Carleen and I have met on many occasions with Carly to talk about our parks and what we would like to see in them. And I know that there's I was going to call it a refit of Canning Town Rec, you know what I mean. And not only that, but actually over the past couple of years, the offers that were available to our young people who are leaving our care have diminished, as have the offer to our foster carers. So I'm really pleased that that will be back on the agenda. But I guess most importantly, and I suppose I've only just read it now, so I'm sorry, but 8.6, it says that estimated 200,000 of additional funding could be required in year one to allow for an uplift of staff employed by the current provider to London Living Wage. And I was actually quite shocked at that, because I just assumed that the current provider, as somebody who was council provider, actually paid the London Living Wage. So that's also what we need to celebrate, is actually the staff employed in our leisure centres and across will also be paid the London Living Wage. and quite rightly too. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, Chair. And as you know, we are leading in London in terms of London Living Wage. We've already paid London Living Wage to our care staff and that's benefiting around 1,500 care workers in the borough. This is clear enhancement of the corporate to include London Living Wage in all future procurements.
Great.
Arlene. Thank you, Chair. I just have a quick question, for you and your team. I guess in the change of whoever wins this tender or not, will there be any impact on the resident through that change, or will it be just a seamless change? I, as Sarah said, echo what she talked about in regards to accessibility, true accessibility of for instance, our leisure centres specifically, and the quality of offer that's there for families. So I just wondered, will it be a seamless move, or is there going to be, do we envision any hiccups in the road or swimming pool or whatever it may be?
Thank you. That's a very good question, Karen. And clearly, any change brings in a degree of uncertainty. And clearly, the staff who work for Active Neum are going to be 2 feet over to the new provider. So there is that degree of consistency in terms of people moving forward. So it's not a complete change of staffing personnel, etc. So our expectation is that the transition will be relatively smooth. But at the same time, we are conscious of that, and we will make sure that the plans that we put in place, towards the end of this current contract and the start of new contract are robust enough to make sure that there is the least inconvenience in terms of accessibility and service delivery before we move on to the next agenda, which is to improve things forward. Colin, you got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Ali. So two things really for me. The first is that we don't know who the provider is going to be yet, so we'll be going through that process first, and then we'll be bringing that back to cabinet. But the second point is that as part of the post award that we'll bring to cabinet, we'll be outlining our implementation plan. So one of the reasons in the report that we asked for that extension is to actually make that, to smooth out that transition period, as you've spoken about there, Councillor. So we want to make sure that we've got the right time to implement in the right way, dependent on who the provider is that is successful following the tendering process.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, colleagues? No? Oh, go on, Terry.
Just an observation, Chair. Obviously, I've sat in the meetings with Zulfikar and with Carly, Jason and Colin, and also been in with James' office. They've done a good work on this. It's quite a difficult piece of work. It's one which is a difficult piece of work, and they've done a very good job. And I think it shouldn't be underestimated what they've done to get to this point. It's a very difficult piece of work. And I think that should be reflected. And I think it would be remiss of me not to say that. And especially things like, we say it's a fantastic thing about London Living Wage, but it's taken us time to do that. That has a cost in itself if you look at the next couple of years, but we've committed to do that. So I don't think we should underestimate about our commitment to London Living Wage, because it's not just a one thing today, it's a thing for the future, and we should recognise that. But again, good work to the officers on this one, because this is a very tricky piece of work. I think it's important for me to say that, and to recognise the work Zulfikar and the team has done, and James has worked in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just some concluding remarks from me. And similarly, I very much appreciate that this has been a really challenging and complex piece of work to grip and to recalibrate and recreate in a way that fits the needs of the borough now and in the future. And I recall actually, it was 2015 scrutiny meeting, and the then portfolio lead for this area came in and provided a presentation as to why our leisure services were going to be transformed into active Newham. And there were elements of it that just did not stack up. And given the diminishing of scrutiny in the past, despite our challenge, no substantive response or clarity in answer. And I'm just glad that we've had the privilege and the opportunity to on making this better and get it right, because it's not been great. And it needs to do better, not least because of the significant issues of health equality that we need to be achieving in this borough. Childhood obesity, various comorbidities that are experienced by too many of our residents. And in this COVID-19 world, the emphasis that we're placing on health as part of our Build Back Fairer. So I think this is a really, really important report. Thank you very much. I'm going to go straight to the recommendations, which are on page number 11. Sorry, they're not. The paper starts at 1. Okay, so the recommendations are set out on big page number 113. Do we agree? Agreed. Thank you very much. Now we are going to be going on to agenda item 10. I kind of feel prompted to do a drum roll moment, but I won't. This is improving the borough's air quality, which is obviously important. Funding agreement that the council will be undertaking with Uber B. You, James Asser.
Thank you. I was confused then because I've lost track of which are the real numbers and which are the modern numbers, or the updated ones. So thank you on this. So this is, as you can see in the paper, about our delivery on electric vehicle charging points for public use. I think everyone is well aware that we have targeted the climate and poor air quality in the borough as something we wanted to challenge and take on, and a part of that has required us to take lots of decisions. Some of those have been very difficult, and some of those have been challenging. And one of the things we've had coming out of that is a desire to see more electric charging opportunities around the borough. We've done some work in the past. People remember we had some money through City Hall and put in some charging points about 18 months ago. We followed that up with some work on lamppost chargers, but we clearly needed to roll that out further. Like all councils, money is a challenge, and this kind of new infrastructure doesn't come cheap. So we have been working as part of a deal with Uber. Now, why Uber? Simply because they have the largest number of their drivers live in the borough. They are moving to an all-electric fleet, and their staff are going to need to, their drivers are going to need to charge. We have a need to increase the amount of charging facilities in the borough too, and it's a partnership that works for both of us. It also means we will be getting investment into installing charging points that will be able to be used by the public. I think people can see in the papers, we're looking here at £2.6 million worth of investment over the next 12 months in infrastructure in the borough. That will deliver us 400 new charging points in 200 locations, which roughly speaking, and Murray will correct my maths I'm wrong, pretty much quadruples our existing provision over the next 12 months. This is a huge step forward, a bigger opportunity in terms of people being able to charge. And I think everyone can see that the number of electric vehicles are increasing as people see the change coming and people want to make their own choices in terms of cleaner vehicles. We'll be following up other opportunities, so we're not stopping here. This isn't the end. This is certainly a major step forward, and I think a huge amount of work has gone into this behind the scenes with officers to get this over the line and deliver what is a huge investment in the borough. I have on the call Murray Woodburn, Jamie Cook and Jamie Blake. It's probably you, Murray, but if any of them want to add anything at this point.
No, as usual, Councillor Asser, you have covered everything very well, so I have nothing further to add.
Murray will never be redundant. There's
I know, never.
To do.
Need him in Forest Gate Village, you think?
He's a smoker.
I'm not, actually. I'm a former smoker. But...
Okay, order. Right, okay. Are there any questions, colleagues? Zulf, Zulfikar. Terry,
Just an observation. I think Councillor Asser told me on many conversations, but don't we have more taxi drivers, Uber drivers as such, than any other borough in London? Is that
just said that?
Oh, right, sorry.
That's correct, Councillor Paul, yes.
Councillor Paul.
Right, sorry. No, so look, it's a really good piece of work. So well done. And also, I may say there's been a GMB member. Obviously, Uber have been made a better employer. The recent GMB campaign to give proper employment rights to their people. And I think that must be said, because people out there might be wondering, why are we working with Uber? But they have changed their tune in recent times. That should be recorded. But just to say, it's a really good piece of work and well done.
Thank you. I'd just say on the employment rights thing, because I think it's worth pointing out, and I had mentioned this to a member of parliament in a neighbouring borough who'd done a lot of work on this, and it met the approval in terms of where they've got to on that. But I think the employment rights thing is quite important as well, because this is about people's employment. Because if you're living in Newham and you're driving an electric vehicle and you can't charge it, that's going to make your working life difficult. We know the figures for Uber, but there'll be a whole range of other people in similar jobs in other industries and other companies we don't know about who will also need that infrastructure. And so the fact that this is going to be public facing and allowed to be used by everybody benefits on a wider level. But I think, ensuring people's employment is safe is.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Is that satisfactory? Yeah. All right, fine. Any other questions? No. I just end by commending you and the team around this piece, because as we shift towards cleaner vehicles and obviously our ongoing mission to encourage people to walk and cycle more remains intact. I say, looking at one of my cabinet leads, it's got a juggernaut. It's been a really, really great. It's been a really great piece of work, actually, and I think again, it's just a demonstration of our foresight and sort of, innovative and creative approach to reach challenges that we always face. So there's going to be 400 electrical charge point vehicles in the pipeline. When will they all be completed by?
I'll hand the time.
Well, originally it was to be the end of March 23, but actually we've had a little extension of 3 months to the end of June 23. So certainly within the next 15 months.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so colleagues, can I just draw your attention to the recommendations on big page number 141, please? And do you all agree the recommendations? Agreed. We all agree. Thank you very much. Now we're moving on to sorry, I'm even losing track. Well, parking debt write-off.
Bus priority.
Oh, sorry.
Buses.
Okay. Bus priority measures. Pages 159 to 186. I'm going to be passing back to James Asser.
This is perhaps more localised than sometimes we bring to cabinet, because often lots of these schemes can go through on officer delegation and sign off by me as the cabinet lead, but the costs around this one are higher and therefore need to come to cabinet. It's about it's bus priority measures in the Custom House Plaistow South area. As people will be aware, the majority of our residents don't have access to private vehicles. The majority of our residents use public transport, and whilst we are kind of blessed with a number of tube lines and quite a comprehensive number of stations, buses are still a hugely important part of the public transport network, particularly getting between places within the borough. We work with TfL to try and improve bus times and bus services where we can. And bus priority measures such as this are important about making sure the service is both efficient and reliable, make sure people can get to places they want to go. So straightforward, really, improving the bus services in the centre of the borough. what Murray's going to say, but if he wishes to add anything, because I think he wrote the report.
Just one thing to add on this occasion, Councillor, and that is this is one of those rare beasts that is a bus priority scheme that actually benefits general traffic as well by sorting out a problem junction. It also improves road safety by signalising an existing crossing. So it's a bit of a win-win, I think, this scheme.
And also, I mean, it is important to note that this is going to be fully funded by TfL.
Absolutely, yes, that's right.
Which is really good news, given the challenge that it's being presented with at the moment. Right, okay, are there any questions? I've got Carleen.
Thank you, Chair. So just in regards to how this will work, and as a councillor in Parsons South, I have seen this pop up before. I guess my only question I have for you, I guess the question for you, Murray, as you are all known, is will this affect, in the meantime, access to Newham General Hospital?
Well, what we're actually doing here is solving an existing access issue to Newham General Hospital that has been reported to us by ambulances and other vehicles using the hospital. There have been some issues with vehicles parked on Glen Road, which have been causing an obstruction for some of the ambulances accessing. So what we've done as part of the scheme, it's not actually part of the bus priority programme, but because it's adjacent, what we've decided to do as part of this scheme is to sort that access issue as well by resolving and removing a couple of those parking bays to make sure that that access is unfettered to the hospital.
Thank you. Can I ask another question, if you don't mind? And just in regards to that Glen Road junction, will that change to a red route?
No, it's not. A red route is a TfL designation, so it's not something that we can apply on our roads. There will be parking restrictions, new parking restrictions on Glen Road. That's true, but those are being put in place in order to ensure that safe access for ambulances.
Thank you.
Okay, right. Are there any other questions? I can't see any. Alan. I'm going to just draw everyone's attention to the recommendations as set out on big page number 161. Do we all agree?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to be going on to agenda item new 12, which is the parking debt write-off. And again, I'm going to be inviting James Asser to introduce this paper.
Okay, so Cabinet members will remember that we first brought a programme on this a year ago as part of the work we're doing with the finance team to ensure we're properly managing debt and managing income and outgoings, and also making sure we are transparent about how we manage the finances. People remember from a year ago that a lot of this debt was long-standing and historic. Much of it related to was uncollectible, as indeed some of this is now, a lot related to the car pound. And a huge amount of work has gone in over the last year to improve our practices, improve the way we operate, increase the amount we collect, so we're not in this situation. But in big cities like London, there are always difficulties in collecting a lot of debt. You'll see from the recommendations in 2.1, there is an outline of where that money breaks down. So as part of our ongoing promise to make sure we are transparent on top of this, we'll be bringing forward each year in terms of where we need to clear the back. So some of the debt we've continued to pursue from last year. People will see in the report there are some we are still pursuing, but these are the ones we can't collect, and therefore there is no point keeping on the books debt we know we can't collect. And people remember from last year, some of that related to historic debt around the car pound, where it was vehicles effectively racking up paper debt that we knew was not realistic in actual money terms. But I've still got the Jamies, and I've got Darren and Sarah as well. I think probably I'm handing over to Sarah at this point, I suspect, to add anything, because she is the expert on this.
She is indeed.
Yeah, the only thing I would clarify is what is the definition of debt. So debt from the financial point of view is any PCN issued, but actually from a parking point of view, a debt is only a debt once a warrant is issued.
Say that again? I couldn't hear that.
You're quite faint, Sarah. I don't know if you.
Oh, I can try and make me louder. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So the only thing to clarify is what is a debt. So when we talk about a paper debt, so from a finance point of view, a debt is a debt once we issue a PCN. From a parking legislation perspective, a debt is only a debt once a warrant is issued for that PCN. So if we don't hold the registered keeper details via the DVLA, then I have no way of recovering that money. But from a finance point of view, it still appears as a debt, whereas from a practical point of view, it is not a debt.
Okay.
That's a better explanation than my attempt.
Yes. Correct. That's what she is.
I know.
You're not.
Okay, are there any other, is that it for now, James? Are there any?
Unless Jamie or Jamie have anything to add, or anyone else? No, people are shaking their heads.
Okay, fine. Questions, let's open up to questions.
Mm-hmm.
Go on.
I suppose my question, obviously, wouldn't expect the Cabinet for Finance to quite okay with a write-off, but that's just part of the DNA. But it's just about, can you or your officers, Jane, provide some assurance about the sort of the processes sitting behind each category? Because obviously we've got to this point and you've sectioned out the debt for various things, but obviously just that assurance to those members of the public and actually the Cabinet, but the processes sitting behind each of those categories are as tight as possible. The example last year, the sort of the big process improvement was around the car pound, right? And we got that. So this year, just to give some assurance, but there's some tightening of those procedures, so we're not missing out on income. We're not doing Are we not doing unnecessary write-offs? Is sitting behind my question.
Yep, sure. Well, there's lots of work been going on. I will hand over to the parking team to tell you about what they've been up to.
Yeah, so if I start with the car pound we have now turned around so that all cars that were removed from a parking legislation are moved through the process within a 90-day turnaround, and if they are not collected, they are scrapped within their 90-day, compared to when I joined a year ago, we had cars that had been there for 5 years. So that process of processing through cars systematically and ensuring that we are writing to all the registered keepers in a timely fashion is moving through the process, and then that process ties into how we respond to PCN representation. So legally we have 56 working days in which to respond to PCN representations, which we were at that limit in January 2021. We are now responding to formal representations within a 14-day business turnaround. So the speed at which we're responding to our customers and the speed at which then things are moving through the process is a lot quicker. So that what we're aware of is the faster that the more systematic we are through the process, the more likely we are to be able to recover debt and move that forward. So the overall cycle of a PCN is now around 18 months compared to previously it was around 3 years.
Okay, fine. Is that reassuring? Okay.
Only because I don't understand. What is a persistent evader, no debt registered?
So a persistent evader is someone who has got 3 or more PCNs that goes past charge certificate, which is the letter in which we send so we send a number of statutory letters. We send 3 statutory letters to every person who gets PCN if they haven't paid. Once that notice gets to charge certificate, which is the official name of the second letter, and they've got 3 or more of those debts, that person is deemed a persistent evader. So, or a persistent offender. They're a persistent evader if they haven't paid. So what we look at is those people to see how we manage them in an effective manner. So what I'm conscious of is if I go to issue a warrant, that costs the council £9 per warrant. If I've got someone who has multiple PCNs, so more than 5 PCNs, do I issue all 9 warrants at the same time, or do I see whether the first warrant is paid and manage that accordingly, which is the process in which we do. So, and then so that's what a persistent evader is. we don't register the debt if we know we haven't got any hope of getting it. The other reason we won't register the debt is when we work with our bailiffs and one source, if we have someone who is in financial difficulty or has a level of vulnerability, and therefore we would be writing off that debt, we wouldn't then register more PCNs in that time period, because we know that that money is not recoverable for the council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the moral of the story is
persistent evader is what I was thinking.
Definitely not the moral of the story.
Definitely not the moral of the story is design with intelligent systems and processes, and have the right people following through, and not having cars in car pounds for 5 years, becoming a mountain of cars.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd just add is I think what you've heard, I mean, it's horribly complicated as a process to manage. And, I take my hats off to the team about it's not an easy department to run. And the systems, there's lots of legalities and appeals around it as well, of course. But what you've seen is if you want to manage this properly, you manage it efficiently. And I think what you've seen from the numbers there in terms of the turnaround time in correspondence, the amount of time that's been reduced in dealing with things that are in the pound, and all adds to an efficient, better run service, and an efficient, better run service is more cost effective, and therefore will help us in terms of managing budgets and avoiding things like this. So I think, that as you can tell, a huge amount of work has gone on to improve our systems, and the officers and the team should be recognised for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, okay, I can't see any more questions. Can we just note the recommendations on big page number 150? And do we all agree?
Agreed.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, that's that one done. We have the final paper, which is the appointment of a supplier for materials, tools and equipment for repairs and maintenance services, RMS stores. And I suspect this is Councillor Shabal Mohammed.
Yes, it is.
Over to you.
Do you want me to start, Chair? Sorry. This paper seeks the approval to appoint Travis Perkins Limited as new supplier contract for materials, tools and equipment to be used for the repair, maintenance and the improvement of housing properties and minor highways work. This is a result of a robust procurement process that took 8 months, including 2 months of negotiation that was designed not only to secure materials at the best possible prices, but to obtain as meaningful and substantial social value and community wealth contributions from the bidders as possible. The result of this is a 10-year contract with Travis Perkins Company, which is company managed the stores in RMS, provide materials to the council, and it can be seen from the detail provided in the report that not only Travis Perkins were cheaper, the final 2 bids, but scored higher in the quality questions, and it is clear that both the final bidders invest time and resources in the bid and offered excellent prices and considerable social value and community wealth building activity and investment.
Okay, thank you very much. Darren, are there any additional comments you wish to make?
Just to sort of highlight, as well as the recommendation for the award of the contract, we're also including a recommendation to implement a strategic governance structure to both oversee the contract management, but also the social fund contributions that will be made from the contract, just so we can provide assurance to Cabinet that they'll be properly and appropriately governed, and will be committed to coming back to Cabinet in November to provide a further update on those governance structures, just to provide that ongoing assurance for the future.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Any questions, colleagues? Councillor Terry Paul.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Shabs. It's just to pick up on Darren's point. The social value fund, as estimated in this report, is going to be multiple millions of pounds. And I wondered, on recommendation 2.1.4, but perhaps we can put after contract, i.e. including the social value fund, because that is a significant pot of money. It's not just the governance structures of how this thing works, it's where that fund sits in the organisation, how it's going to be distributed, how it works across with the inclusive economy portfolio. This is a multi-million pounds of fund. I just want to know that we've got our hands on it organisationally, not just RMS. So I don't know, through you, Chair, obviously I'm bearing in mind that it's your portfolio. And no, it's yours, but in terms of the inclusive economy, that social value thing, perhaps we just say at 2.1, i.e. include, is it IE or EG? EG. IE. I missed that one, like class at school. IE, you know, IE the social value fund and its operation at the end of that.
Okay, so that would need to be reflected in an amendment to the recommendations to get that hardwired. But it goes without saying, because if you look at how it aligns to corporate strategies at the back, that's set out there. Are you happy for just an insertion?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And that's certainly what that recommendation was intended to do. So very happy to make it more sort of.
Okay, and just for reassurance, on big page number 133, where you've got the section delivering council policy and corporate priorities, you've got the community wealth building.
Yeah.
There as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so which recommendation is being proposed to be tightened?
2.1.4.
2.1.4. Instruct the Director of Housing to present a report to Cabinet in November, setting out a 6-month review of the governance structures implemented for financial and performance management of the contract and how progress so far has enabled.
Can we put i.e. the operation of the social value fund?
Okay.
That's fine. Respect to RMS.
Darren.
To RMS. Yeah. Respect to RMS. Yeah.
Does that sound?
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's what it was intended to indicate. So very happy for it to be clearer.
It will read then, instruct the Director of Housing to present a report to Cabinet in November 2022, setting out a 6-month review of the governance structures implemented for financial and performance management of the contract and corresponding social value. Full stop.
With respect to RMS.
With respect to RMS. And corresponding social value with respect to RMS.
Social value fund.
Social value fund with respect to RMS.
Yeah.
You got that, Joy?
Yeah.
Joy, okay.
Yep. Okay, great. So colleagues, with that amendment, are we all agreeable with the recommendations?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, so we've come to the formal end of this meeting. Before everyone departs, I would like to say a few words. You'll be aware of the ongoing outrage that is impacting thousands and thousands of lives, and we're reaching a humanitarian disaster with over 1 million people having left Ukraine. And as I'm sure all of you appreciate, some of us who've grown in this borough, some of us who've moved more recently, one of the things that makes Newham such a great place to live is the fact that we have such a diversity of people from all around the world that will have come to live here in a democratic society. And amongst those many, we are actually home to the largest number of Ukrainians of any local authority area in the country. Our community is united in its horror at the war and the attack by Putin's forces naturally will be wanting to do all that it can to provide humanitarian aid and to provide shelter to refugees. We are actively, as part of our discussions with other local authorities in London through London councils, scoping out what the impact on London will be as we are very much open to refugees, but we're waiting for details from the government in terms of resources and support. Suffice to say that as a borough, as a council, as an administration, we stand ready to provide whatever support we can to refugees, but the government is yet needing to clarify what support it will provide Newham Council. I attended a meeting with the Secretary of State for Levelling Up and Communities on Friday afternoon to talk about this very issue, talked about the importance of the appropriate and required levels of resource, the response of our communities under previous refugee programmes, the Syrian refugee programme, the Afghan refugee programme, and we will do our bit because that's who we are as a borough. And I also talked about the importance that we place in framing all of our approaches through that trauma-informed response. And it's not good enough for only 50 refugees from Ukraine having only been processed, having heard that there were 100 that got to Calais and are being routed to Paris and elsewhere to get their paperwork done. These are people who are at risk of dying. In our community, the following places are accepting collections of humanitarian aid in person. There's the restaurant, and I'm going to completely balls this up. It's on 369 High Street, E15.
Sawmill.
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 No, that's West Ham Lane.
Dinista.
Yeah. And that's just by the DLR station, and they're making humanitarian collections.
So at Forest Gate, Dinista.
Okay. Is that the one on Wood Grange?
No, it's the one on the Romford Road.
Opposite.
What was the old NatWest Bank? To the mosque almost.
So there's two sites of the restaurant, one in Stratford High Street, which are accepting collections of humanitarian aid in person, and the one on Romford Road, the old Barclays Bank. And then there's a Sawmill Cafe, 51 West Ham Lane. Now, over the course of the coming weeks, no doubt, we don't wish to see this war prolonged, but we could be in here for a while. And notwithstanding that, the displacement of peoples, 1 million people, will have long-lasting effects and implications for our borough, and we will remain welcome. But myself, the Chief Executive and others will be going to visit members of the Ukrainian community to see firsthand what it is that they're doing and also to provide our support. So I encourage all members of Cabinet to join when you're able to. We'll get information circulated. But on that note, just wanted to convey at the end of this formal meeting of Cabinet that here in Newham, we stand by Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.